that's enough content for the one other Fulham fan in the country. You're welcome, mate.
Yeah, I can't imagine too many views coming from that one, eh? It's all right. It's you and that one Man City fan that they have as well. It's all good.
No, well, seeing as I've got no business talking about the Premiership,
right.
Let's have a little bit from you. What do you make of the Premier League so far this season? I mean, it's looking like one of the most competitive leagues we've had since the start of the Premier League. So,
yeah, I think like Gary Neville touched on it. He said like this is the best Premier League that he's ever seen. So, you know, it's obviously the hardest league in professional football. And, you know, in most other leagues, you have 2 or 3 teams really that are going to win it. Like with the Premier League, like the standard is the gap is starting to. I know some people say like the rich clubs are only getting richer and buying the big players and all, but I feel like that the middle ground clubs, the likes of the Evertons, the West Hams, all of that, like they're improving as well and they're catching up and they're starting to get a lot of results. Like we're seeing Brighton now with an unbelievable start. Brentford only promoted an unbelievable start. So it's such a tough league. Like looking at it now, obviously top 4 we have Chelsea, Liverpool, City, and United, which I think most people would have at the start of the season would have said these will probably be the top 4. So if I was to ask you, like, come end of the season, who do you think that top 4 is going to be, and in what order?
I mean, for me, I can't see the top 4 changing this year. A couple of years ago, I was sort of not really. I didn't think there was a top 4 anymore. There wasn't a big 4. There's more of a big 6 or 7 clubs that could all go close, given the right signings and a bit of luck. But I mean, having a look at the table there, that top 4 for me isn't going to change. I still think City are the team to beat. Unfortunately for you, as a United fan.
And that's the
noisy neighbours, I think they're still up there.
I'd say most United fans, if you ask them, who do they hate the most? They'll say probably Liverpool and Leeds.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Man City and I hate Arsenal. Right? And the reason being, it's a respect thing as well, because obviously Man City, the same city as United.
Yeah.
They came in, got these owners, threw loads of cash, the best facilities. Like they went from nothing to everything. So it's kind of hard because we're not only competing with them in the league, but it's almost competing with them obviously in the same city. And then with Arsenal, it was just we were head to head with them for so long that it's more of a respect thing, but I just can't stand them. Like I like watching the clips on the likes of AFTV and all where they're all fuming because they're losing.
They're never fuming, are they?
Arsenal. You were talking about that big 6. It was a big 6 until fucking Spurs and Arsenal got their pants pulled down, wasn't it?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Jeez.
But I get what you're saying, especially about Arsenal. I mean, growing up watching the Premier League, I mean, younger fans now probably you think we obviously maybe getting on now.
Just a tad.
When I was growing up watching the Premier League, it was Arsenal United every year. It was them two dominating the league. English teams didn't do great in Europe. They didn't really dominate, but the Premier League was Arsenal and United. And obviously Arsenal were fallen way away now. But I do get what you're saying there about
similar setup with Fulham, isn't it? Though it's they were bought by American owners. Your man stuck his kid with no experience in football, real football, where managing such a huge club with a huge history, and it's actually been sad to see as well. As much as I don't like them, it's kind of sad to see because they've fallen a lot. And I think only a couple of years ago, I felt similar about United. I felt like we were falling. We were finishing kind of like mid-table outside the Champions League spots. I didn't feel we were competitive. I looked at the squad and it just seemed poor. It was a million miles away from what it used to be. But I think we managed to kind of just catch ourselves before it went too far. And then we started to kind of build back up over the last couple of years. Whereas Arsenal, they just kept going. And obviously this season, they lost their first 3 games. Rock bottom. Now, they've had a couple of good results recently. But I think, mismanagement from owners, the people that are making the decisions behind the club, the people, Edu, obviously a great player, but how much experience does he have with identifying players and recruiting? Arteta, no experience really as a manager. He got that job purely because he was Pep's mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Arsenal were in a bit of a desperate situation and they gave it to him. What do you think of Arteta? Because obviously, with the Premier League, with fans, it can be tough because a lot of the time you're either one side or the other. You're Ole In or Ole out. You're Arteta in, Arteta out. But they fans, they don't really allow for this middle ground. What do you think? Do you think Arteta is good enough to get Arsenal kind of back up?
I don't. I think no. At the minute, no. I think they need someone else than Arteta at this moment in time. I think he's he's got the potential to be a great manager and he's probably a great coach. But I think what Arsenal were lacking at this point in time on the pitch, off the pitch, in the boardroom is leadership. And I think they need a big name. They need someone to come in, steady the ship and build off that. I mean, it is a great club. They've got some nutty fans. But, it's great. They're passionate. But I just think they need a leader there. I think they need a leader on the pitch. How many years have been trying to replace Patrick Vieira for? I've lost count.
How do you replace him?
A defensive midfielder.
How do you replace him? Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, they need a leader. They need a leader in the boardroom. They need a leader on the pitch. And they need a leader in the change room. And Arteta at the minute, you don't like to see managers get sacked. I mean, he's in exactly the same position at the minute as Nuno Gomez at Spurs. You could possibly make an argument for him, although Arteta's had a lot of money to spend and a few seasons to bed in. So, for me, new manager.
We spoke yesterday on the international break one about captains, yeah? And we were chatting to you about how England have been getting on and leadership and how they weren't able to kind of get over the line, get that step further with the World Cup or win the Euros. And we spoke about Harry Kane being the captain and not really agreeing that forwards should be captains, because if a forward has a bad game, they can't really lead by example unless you're just a really loud player. But most forwards, I don't think are. With Arsenal, you have Aubameyang is their captain, which is the exact same situation, So if he's not scoring goals and he's not really a vocal leader, you know what I mean? I think you're right there with the whole leadership thing.
Yeah, I think they're really, for a club who, and also touching on that, yesterday we spoke a lot about identity of clubs and, a so-called way of playing when we talk about, obviously, Ireland's golden generation. But you're talking about identity for a club that had, for so many years, had so much identity and such a specific style of playing. You knew what an Arsenal side would look like. For years and years and years, you knew what they looked like. If they bought a player, you know how he's going to play. It didn't matter who they got rid of. The system was there. If a player came up, I remember we used to watch them in the League Cup and you'd get the unknown 16 or 17-year-olds in there playing exactly the same as the first team do on a Saturday afternoon. And for a club that had that much identity to now look at them, and I mean, sometimes watch them this season, they're just at 60s and 7s. Something's got to change.
Where do you think they'll finish? Do you think they'll have enough to either challenge? Well, obviously we agreed on the top 4, the Europa League. Who do you think is going to get that 5th spot?
I'm looking at it and I think of Tottenham, West Ham and Arsenal, someone is not finishing in the top 6. I think 2 of those 3 are not going to finish in the top 6. And I think it's going to be West Ham and Arsenal. I think Spurs will kick on. I think Harry Kane will find some form.
Yeah.
And I do think Gomez will get it right. I think Spurs, that stadium is going to play a big part as well. They got great support at home. I mean, even the first game of the season, the atmosphere is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to help them this year. Obviously, Arsenal, I think you've got to switch your phones off when you go in the stadium. So I don't think that's going to be a 12th man for them. But I think Arsenal, are going to struggle a bit this season, and I would be surprised if Arteta makes it to the end of the year, especially with how fickle their fans are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with Spurs, like, Nuno only came in very late. He was like the third choice to come in as a manager. So, like, the fact he even scraped 3 wins in the first 3 games, I know he had 3 losses after that, I believe. I think you're going to have to give him time because he has experience. You know what I mean? He did well with Wolves, especially in that first year. The talent that they found at Wolves and the connection he has with, I think it's Mendes, the agent.
Yeah.
Where they're feeding all these kind of Portuguese players and obviously players from other places as well, but very Portuguese heavy. I think if he can do something similar within Spurs, I could see Spurs picking up a few solid players and having a pretty decent team. So
Spurs, I think, are crying out to be back in the market as well. I mean, they've got Levy, who he gets a lot of stick being tight.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine he probably has a fork in the sugar bowl, can't you? But, I think they need to be backed as well this year.
Yeah.
But
with Spurs, do you think they should have backed Pochettino?
I mean, if he was there and they turned him down, it's crazy. Yeah. I don't know why he wouldn't have, because he was fantastic there. The fans loved him.
Yeah.
He had a great rapport with all the players who were still there.
Yeah.
And he worked off a shoestring, which he probably wouldn't have come back and done again. But again, it's another one of those things, what went on behind the scenes. I feel like this is the thing that always gets me with teams and the appointments of managers, and especially at Spurs. You've got a club there who has spent so much money, who has sold so many players and gone through so many managers. Where does the buck stop? Sorry, not spent so much money, earned so much money through player sales, but where does the buck stop? Because all these managers are coming in, they're only appointed by one person.
Yeah.
And to this day, I've never seen a director of football be sacked for appointing a bad manager or a board member. So where does the buck stop? I mean, Mourinho, all right, he probably doesn't get on with most people. He's a bit of a Marmite character, but you can sort of imagine he would have had a falling out with Levy. And I don't know, is he become poisonous at the club? Who knows?
Yeah. I definitely think they have to start taking some responsibility for it as well. Like United is the same with Ed Woodward. We had years of our squad declining, our performances declining, and it took a long time to start to spend money, like we kind of have over the last couple of years. So if you want to go 1 to 4, who finishes in what order?
For me, Man City win the league this year. From what I've seen of them, I mean, if they had signed Harry Kane, as I think Gary Neville touched on it earlier in the week, if they had signed Harry Kane, I mean, I think you could almost just go home now.
It wouldn't be fair.
No, exactly. And they was brilliant. I think Liverpool are going to be second. I think Chelsea third, United fourth. Sorry, mate.
No, that's all right, yeah.
But I think every team is going to have a good go, and I think everyone's going to be in it till down the stretch. I think. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it as such this year. Yeah. How about yourself? United top?
No, I have to be honest, right? I think all 4 obviously have enough there to really challenge. At the start of the season, I picked Man City. Now, I think obviously they haven't had the worst start, but having not got that forward, I was kind of expecting them to get Kane, as you are saying. With no real forward, I think it makes it closer than it should have been. You know what I mean? If they brought someone in, I think they would have walked the league. I'll still probably stick with them because, the options, like they just have such a deep squad and they're unbelievable quality through. So I'd say City top. I think it will probably be Liverpool. I know they didn't buy too much, but I think Klopp is just a genius. Mo Salah is just on fire. Defensively, having Van Dijk back, having Fabinho as a defensive mid.
It's like a new signing, that's right.
And they brought in Kanate, who's an absolute unit of a fella. This poor fridge of a centre-back. And he's not even starting, you know what I mean? So they have lots of options there. So I think Liverpool will have enough. And I think it will be really close with them. And then I think it should be United. With the squad we have, I think we have a better squad than Chelsea, and maybe that's just from a United fan perspective. But over recent results and seeing how things are going, I think, we just have a gaping hole in the middle of the pitch, and it's hurting us, and it's going to keep hurting us. So I think it's going to be close with Chelsea and United. And I think the experience of the manager could play a part here in the long run. And I think Chelsea might get it. But look, of course, I want to see United win. I want to see us go on a big run. I think with our squad, we should be challenging all the way to the end,
I mean, for you, there's a lot of talk. It seems like it's the same time every single year. Ole in, Ole out. As he needs to win a trophy. He needs this. Personally, he does need to win a trophy. You can't be Manchester United manager and go without a trophy in that period of time. But do you think he's the right man for the job?
Well, when we look at the trophy thing, right? I've been thinking about this a lot because obviously, as you said, everything is Ole in, Ole out.
Can't sleep. Can't sleep at night.
See the bags under these eyes. Obviously, we think about it a lot and we hear it a lot. Ole in, Ole out. He's not winning trophies, stuff like that. We've got to a few semis, a few finals, and we fell short. Same as England, Ouch.
That's still wrong.
But when you look at it, right, no club has a divine right to win trophies, right? No matter who you are, no matter how big you are. Now, we've seen big clubs win stuff. Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa over the years, Blackburn Rovers back, Everton. These were all huge clubs and they fell. So you have to just keep on top of it. No one has a divine right, no matter how big your name is, no matter how big your brand is. And I think as a United fan, if I'm being realistic about it, I think we've been spoiled for so long of winning so much under Alex Ferguson. And obviously me growing up at that time, those expectations have been bet into me as a fan. And it took years of Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, and even the early stages of Ole for me to realise this it's not a given, you know what I mean? It's the hardest league in world football. The league is getting better and better. The middle teams are getting closer, and the teams at the top are investing and getting the big players. So it's really difficult to win the Premier League. But in saying that, he's had a couple of years now. I think he steadied the ship. I think we were in a bad way. We had players, in the media. You had fucking Pogba's agent, Raiola. That absolute clown just wounding everything
week in, week out,
So there was a lot of disruption within United, and you could feel it. Like when they were playing, they didn't seem happy. There was no smiling, no nothing. So I think he's come in and he steadied the ship, and he got the best out of some players. You look at Luke Shaw, was non-existent with Mourinho. He was getting dropped. He's been unreal. Pogba was getting dropped by Mourinho. Now he has the most assists this season. A really good start. Greenwood coming through. Unbelievable the amount of goals that he's getting for such a young age and all. So I think he has improved some players. He steadied the ship. We've brought in big players now. And he consistently kept us in the top 4 getting Champions League over recent years. But he has to step it up now. So this is it. He had his time to build, to get his players, his way of playing. We got to the semis, as I said, and some finals. We fell short. He has to step it up this year. For me, and for the majority of United fans that I know, we need something. Now, if he finishes decent in the Premier League and he picks up a cup and he does decent in the Champions League, I think that buys him another season. And then we can really challenge, because we have to identify that centre mid and another right back option, right? So for me, as I said, fans are really divided. Arteta in, Arteta out, Ole in, Ole out. I'm in this middle ground here where I see that there has been some progress, but I'm also not happy with everything I'm seeing and the results. So I think the pressure's building on him. I think if we have a lot of tough games coming up, if we don't get results, pressure at United, the media getting in on him, I think he's in trouble if we don't go on a decent run. I'm not Ole in, I'm not Ole out But I do question some of his decisions. You know, Fred against PSG in the Champions League gets a booking, does about 3 or 4 other tackles that easily could have been yellows. That ref was gifting us there, allowing him. You could almost see the ref looking at Ollie like, are you fucking serious? Get him off it. He left him on, and he ends up getting sent off. That cost us badly. The game over in Turkey, that was a shocking game. You see some of the subs, it's just like for like. There's no real change in formation or style or anything.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that now United, it's a great signing that now you've got Ronaldo. And I still think Ronaldo has years left at the top level from what you've seen of him so far. But do you think there's a danger he's not a big enough personality now Ronaldo's at the club? You saw little starts of it the other day when Ronaldo, he was left out and he loves a sulk.
Yeah.
But, who do you make right in that situation? Do you think he's a big enough personality now that Ronaldo's at the club?
I think he's lucky he played with Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I think Ronaldo will give him some respect because Ollie won trophies in the best United teams. So I think there is respect there. And I think that's why Ronaldo's probably stepped off and not taking a penalty and not taking free kicks and not kicking up murder. But the real question I have is Harry Maguire enough to lead Ronaldo and Sancho and Varane and all these players?
Yes.
So I think Ronaldo's a huge personality, and you have to obviously build a team around him. As I said, I hope he has some respect for him. But if you don't win games and if you're putting in poor performances and if you're consistently making the wrong decisions, that's going to cost you sooner or later. And, United is, for me, it looks like it's all attack or just defend. There is no middle of the park, right?
Yeah.
And this is a big problem with Ollie United, and United fans are fuming over this. When it was last season and we had Lindelof and Maguire as centre-backs, right? There's two players sitting defensive mid, McTominay and Fred. We all hated that. But we accepted it, I think, because we understood that Maguire and Lindelof together were vulnerable and David De Gea was not having the best season.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it actually came from United or if it was just fans just kind of with rumours and chat. We kind of thought it was a case of, right, we'll stick with them because they are 2 centre-backs. But if we bring in a big centre-back, we can finally go to one defensive mid and have another attacking option.
Yeah.
And what we've seen is Varane come in, a world-class centre-back. Won everything.
Yeah, top signing. The transfers in the transfer market, they've been true this year.
Yeah.
I think they've done really well.
Like Varane came in, slotted in beside Maguire, and we're still playing these two. And I think McTominay and Fred aren't bad players. They are good enough to be professional. And McTominay maybe has a bit of a higher ceiling than Fred. But McTominay is being dragged back. He wasn't a natural defensive mid, so he's still probably learning it. Fred came in as an experienced defensive mid. And there's obviously something there with him because he plays for Brazil. Pep Guardiola wanted him at Man City. And obviously Mourinho identified him and wanted him. But I think he was way too expensive. And I think what we've seen is he has some good traits. Like, he's a hard worker. He's going to be a grafter. He'll never stop fucking running. And he will get his toe in and he will stop a few counter-attacks and all. But he makes a mistake in every single game.
Yeah.
And usually those mistakes lead to goals or they lead to big opportunities that we get lucky. So his mistakes are costing us too much. And I was glad when I saw Fred come off in that Everton game because not just absolutely lamping your man out of it or getting the ball out during that counter-attack is criminal. And it's happening too often. So he has to be gone. We need to do something else there. And whether that's have Matic or McTominay sitting as a defensive mid and bring Donny in. Donny's not a big tackler. He's not a big runner, but he will always look for the ball. He'll receive it. He'll do quick passes and he'll move the ball forward. With Fred, I'm fucking sick of seeing it go sideways all the time. Like, John, what are you going to do? Are you going to pass?
That's what you really think.
You're going to pass it out to Wan-Bissaka. Do you know what I mean? Who's still learning how to attack. You know, he's unbelievable in defence, and he's got a few assists. He is getting better, but like in this league, you don't have that much time for players to adjust and to learn these things. We need to have these players just set and ready to go. So there's holes in United. I don't think it's Ole out yet for me, but I know it is for a lot of other people. But I'm starting to lean towards the Ole out based off performances, like young boys in the Champions League.
Yeah,
Like I have, I actually have the United results for the Premier League here, right? So United Leeds at the start, we smash them 5-1, right? Exciting game. But Leeds are always open. People always score against Leeds.
Yeah, they win 5-0, lose 5-0.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that sort of game.
Exactly. So it's not a case of we were so good and it was like we absolutely hammered them where other people don't. Good win, though, we'll take it. Southampton won all. Like, you know, Southampton had lost Danny Ings. You know, they were missing players. They're a club that have lost 6-0 and 6-1 multiple times. Yeah, we always seem to struggle against them.
Yeah.
So, and the performance was poor. So we get a draw, we scrape a draw. Then we go up against Wolves. I thought Wolves deserved to win that, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed by our result. That was a smash and grab for me. I think if they had Jimenez back, and I know that they brought in, I think it's a Korean lad who scored a couple of goals there recently. We were lucky that we met them and they didn't have those players playing.
Yeah.
Because they had chances. Traore absolutely destroyed us. He created so many chances, had no one to get it. We scrape a win. 4-1 against Newcastle. You know, it sounds better than what it is, and that was obviously Ronnie coming in, getting a goal.
It's a bit of a party atmosphere, weren't it? It was the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was unlucky for Newcastle to play us in Old Trafford on that day.
Yeah,
but they did well. They created chances, and I think a better team would have finished those chances, and that could have been a draw easily. We beat West Ham, but we scrape it. It's not a confident performance. We lose to Villa. Again, same formation, same kind of performance. Like, I feel like we're getting lots of, like, stats-wise it looks good. We've lots of possession, lots of shots on target. But a lot of these are nothing chances.
Yeah.
So we lose to Villa. And then Everton, like, you know, they were missing Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have
they've had a good start to the season and decided to rest players. I know it's a long season. That's the excuse you get. It's a long season. He's got to do a bit of managing the players. But I mean, Ronaldo has just come off of how long layoff from Juventus. I mean, you can imagine he would be the sort of player he is, training, and he's not going to be sitting on the beach of Madeira drinking San Miguel, is he? He's going to be tip-top, ready to start that game, you know, and we're early on in the season. I just thought Everton was the wrong game to be resting players like that.
Yeah, look, Ronaldo's picked up goals in basically every game, so it was a big choice to make, but I still think our team should have been good enough to beat that Everton team. And Cavani, I actually want to see Cavani play. I'd like to see Cavani and Ronaldo play together. At some point, and maybe that's where we need to lose a sitting defensive mid player and get Cavani, because I think that they could work well together. Like, the work at Cavani is unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? United fans love him, and sometimes Ronnie can be a bit of a lazy bastard, but he gets you a goal, as Ireland well know. You know, he's fucking stitched us up. But yeah, like, if we win that game, well done, Ollie. It works out. You made the right choice. If it doesn't go our way, the pressure's building. You know, and it was a draw that was lucky to be a draw, because your man Davey should have slotted that home at the end. We got blessed with that. You know? And
as well as you say, I mean, just looked at your next 10 games. You got Atlanta home and away in the Champions League. That's difficult. They're free scoring. You got some tough games in the Premiership. It could. I don't like to say make or break at this time of the season, because there's a lot of football to be played. Yeah. And teams have bad patches, injuries, this, that, and the other. So, but the pressure does build, and he has to start. He's got to get some results.
Yeah. like I can't remember the last time watching a United game I was jumping out of my seat. I'd say it was probably us playing PSG in the Champions League.
Yeah.
The other year in Paris when we beat them, and we had, our team was nothing compared to their team, so we didn't expect that. That was the last time I can remember just being like, and then maybe the Newcastle one, but it's not consistent enough. The performances aren't, they're not stand out. We're dropping. We had a decent start to the season here, fixture wise, and we needed to pick up these points here because, we have Leicester, we have Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, and all coming up. But it wouldn't shock me if we go get results because that's how it's been. Ollie we do well against the bigger teams and we do shite against the shit ones.
Yeah.
So if we drop points over those games, and I think, we scraped the win against Villarreal in the Champions League. We're out of the League Cup already. I think if we don't pick up results against Atalanta, I think it's, the walls are closing in on him at that point. And it's sad because he's a legend, you know what I mean? Like, one of my best ever experiences as a fan, as a kid, was him slotting it home in the last minute in the Champions League. And I think that's given him time. The one other thing about Ollie, like, and it pisses me off about United fans when you're chatting, like, people like saying he never should have got the job, right? When we go back and we look at it, he was only brought in as a caretaker manager, which we were all okay with, right?
Yeah.
There was no expectation for him to become the hired as our manager long term. But he went on an unbelievable run of results. He got us back up the table. As I said, the mood around the club and in the media was getting way better. You had Pogba like smiling and looking happy and stuff like that. And it was the players, it was the fans, it was the ex-players, the Rio Ferdinand, Scholes, all them calling, saying, we need to hire him. He's done so well. So I can understand why he got the job. And then I think he steadied the ship and he's done okay. But he has to, this is the year, bad results in the next few games, he might not be there in a couple of months.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on from that, what would you say this so far this season? I know it's early in the season. What we're on game week 8. But we got a chance to sort of recap a few things whilst in the international break. Who would you say at the minute is the overachievers in the Premiership for you so far?
Right now, I'd be looking at Brentford.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I've actually watched a couple of their games and they just look solid, big, strong. Like, beating Arsenal in that first game. Like, I think Tony hasn't really hit the ground running yet. He was smashing it in the Championship.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about the kind of stuff happening behind the scenes at Brentford, like the way they identify players and stuff like that. So I'd say for me, it's Brentford so far. Now, can they hold that for a whole season? The Premier League, it's a long season, and I don't know how deep their squad is. But every year we have a team like Sheffield United did, like Wolves did.
Yeah.
And that could be them this year. So they need to make sure if they finish well this year to build on that. Because they could become Fulham.
Well, listen, I can't say I'm too happy about seeing Brentford flying, but I've got to say, I grudgingly admire what they've done. Yeah. I mean, if I'm honest with myself, when we beat them to get promoted in the playoffs, they was the better team all season. We was the better team on the night, and we got promoted. But they deserve to go up that year. Thomas Frank has done a great job keeping the players together. I mean, in the Championship, you've seen with Derby County, how many seasons they went close and then the players get stolen. The players leave for bigger clubs, and then you've got to rebuild every single year, doing a rebuilding job. He's done really well. He lost a lot of top players as well. Don't forget when they was in the Championship. So he's done well, and I think he hasn't really diverged too much from his principles. They play a great game, high pressing, all action. Don't give teams too much respect, which is I think is what you need in the Premiership. And unfortunately, they look like they're having a good season.
And they're scoring some goals. Like they've 10 goals. It's not for a newly promoted team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
3 wins. They've had a tough start as well. It's not the easiest
Absolutely,
start. So,
yeah.
hopefully they can do well, because you like to see them underdog stories. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think also special mention, I mean, they're the standouts for the overachievers, but also Brighton at the minute are flying. And Graham Potter, I mean, he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's not the most fashionable manager because he's English. And, he's not got a silver at the end of his name or whatever. Yeah. But he's quietly done a great job at Brighton with not too much and built a top squad. I mean, Basuma they got there. They're going to do well to keep hold of him because he is a typical player you see leave in January because he's not cut-tied in Europe, and all the big boys who are still in Europe at that time will be swarming. But, I mean, they've done well. And also, I think Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had a bit of a iffy start at the start, but don't forget they had almost every first team player out of contract at the end of the season last year. New manager in Vieira, who I wasn't too sure of his appointment. I'm still not too sure, but they're going all right at the minute.
Yeah, he has more credentials than Arteta.
That's true, yeah. To be fair, he could probably still get a game for Arsenal.
Too bleeding right. Yeah, do you know why Brighton are doing so well?
Go on.
Because they have Ireland's best striker, Shane Duffy. Our centre-back. That's it. Lump the ball up, let Shane Duffy get his head on it.
I thought there must be a reason for it.
But yeah, no, they're doing class as well.
Sorry, at the other end of the scale, who would you say is the underperformers?
Underperformers. If I'm being honest, I leave the top 4 out of it, because obviously they have the most expectations, so they lose a game and you think they're underperforming. I didn't expect much from Spurs or Arsenal this year as a big club, but I would say the one that I'd say is the biggest underperformer so far is Leicester.
Yeah.
For me, they have Rodgers, they have unbelievable players, do you know what I mean? And they're sitting in 13th. They're really struggling. 2 wins and 7.
Yeah.
So for me, where they were and they were challenging for the Champions League, I don't know if they're going to have enough in them to be in that top 6 based off what I've been seeing, And Vardy's obviously their main boy, but he's getting older. They need to replace him.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna lose Tielemans and they're gonna lose Ndidi and a couple of others. They've kind of become, and this is no disrespect to Leicester fans or anything like that, but I look at them as like a kind of Dortmund of the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? They give these young players opportunities, but they sell them to the bigger clubs in their league. So I think that's always going to stop them from getting to that top level. Although they won the league, which is the best story in football ever. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of respect for them. I actually liked watching Leicester. But I think they've been underperforming. What about yourself?
Leicester are there. I mean, just having a look at the league, you've got the obvious Arsenal, Spurs, been poor. For me, I think Villa. I mean, they're sitting... to be fair, they're mid-table, but they spent a lot of money, Villa, and they got a lot of pressure on them. I mean, that Jack Grealish money they were spending... I mean, Villa fans will probably be happy that they're 10th in the league and they're doing all right. But, I mean, they've got some top players there at the minute. And I think they'll be wanting to push on into Europe this year with those sort of players.
I think Danny Ings is a genius signing.
Yeah.
And, they brought in Buendia as well, and they have a couple of other lads, Leon Bailey. They have a solid team, and... Watkins as well that they had brought in. He was big in the Championship. Did decent last year, but he needs to step it up a little bit, I think. But they have a solid team. For me, an Irishman, it's tough to talk about Jack Grealish. Do you know what I mean? The man let us down. I know he's English and all, but he plays for us.
He's a plastic paddy like me.
And this is what we were saying on the other show. Ireland are at a point where our coaches are going on holidays to England, Scotland and America and Australia, like desperate for someone that has an Irish granny and granddad. Like that's where we're at. And we saw Jack Grealish coming through and we gave him a chance. When England wasn't really. Declan Rice was sitting with us. It's criminal that we didn't play these. But like, I understand from them, look, if you want to win something and compete, England is the option. And they were born in England, so I get it. But, you know...
I mean, I think as well, I mean, no players will ever admit it, but I think there's a business side to it as well. Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden, you're an Ireland international, no offence, but, you know, it's not the same clout as when you probably go into the negotiating table and say, well, he's an England international now and his wages are X amount, his sponsorship is X amount. Yeah. I do think there is a side of that to it. Not saying that is probably why they have picked it, but I'm sure it helps.
I don't know, Mitch. Once you're Irish, you're Irish. Do you know what I mean? You can't. Bosses, like. But do you know what? It's tough because they're both so good. Do you know what I mean? And we're crying out for players, so it hurts. So, like, moving back to the Premier League, you know, the stuff Grealish was doing for Villa last year was just, it was dirty. Do you know what I mean? It was ridiculous, like what he was doing. You know, and a player with calves like that has to go play for Man City, doesn't he? Prick. But I think they've spent it well. I just think it's taking time to make it gel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm probably being a bit hard. If there's any Villa fans watching, they'll probably absolutely slate me. I know Slim, who we know is a Villa fan, so he'd probably get straight in the messages to me.
We'll have to get Slim on.
Yeah, I'll probably be a little bit harsh, but I mean, they got a great side there, and I had to pick someone.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Right, who do you think we've picked the top four? We've picked the underperformers. Who do you think is the relegated three?
This year, look, I know what it's like every other year to be in that position. So, I don't like writing teams off at this stage. But I've got to say, Norwich for me look like they're going to be number one contenders. I mean, for me, it's not so much that they're losing games, but the lack of goals. I think it's got 2 in the first 6, and that's worrying, especially with no transfer window. They're conceding 2 a game. You know, you can't do that in the Premiership. So I think the writing is on the wall for them. Elsewhere, I mean, Newcastle were lucky last year. I thought it was between Fulham and them to go down, and I fancied us. We had them on the last game of the season. Yeah. I thought if we could get to within 2 points of them, we'll have it. And obviously ended up going down without a fight. But I think another club maybe, you know, who's been a bit of a victim of... Is it poor management? Is it... I don't know, because things were going great for him not long ago when Pardew was... Well, it probably is quite long ago now, but Pardew was there and things seem to be fantastic, but I don't really know what's gone wrong there. But I think the writing's on the wall for them this year. I think Burnley are just going to escape it, and I don't think Ranieri have enough to keep Watford out. I think it'd be Watford, Newcastle, Norwich, in that order. I'd
say the same. Maybe Newcastle, Watford, Norwich. And my cousin is a Newcastle fan for years.
Really?
He'll hate me saying that, but you know, they're such a big club. Do you know what I mean? And like Newcastle is a great city. Like the fan base, they fill the stadium. Like it's sad to see. They've fallen a lot as well. You know, they had top players, and I think they should be doing a lot better. They need to get that fucking club sold and get your man.
I mean, it's criminal that even that part of England, you got Newcastle up there, who, you know, a huge fan base, fantastic fans, massive stadium. You know, the following they've got is brilliant, and even Sunderland down the road who are playing in League One, which is criminal. But there's something not quite right there, and I mean, they're crying out to be sold. Can you imagine if a Saudi owner had bought them? Wow. Newcastle at the top of the league. But
you'd have Messi playing for Newcastle.
He battered Mars bars.
Neymar be straight over. And that prick Di Maria.
But for me, I think the writing's on the wall. And look, who knows, it might be the best thing for them, because for years and years they're struggling. Year after year after year. Maybe that's what they need, is to go down and rethink new everything. But
they need to get your man now. Seriously, he's destroying them. So yeah, one other quick one, right? Who do you think is going to be the top scorer? Because there's so many strikers. Like we have Lukaku back. You have Ronaldo. Obviously, Mo Salah. The Man City don't have a forward, but you know what I mean? They'll probably score goals anyway. Who do you think is going to take it?
Do you know what? I think, for me, I'm going to pick Ronaldo. I think this year, I think he's changed his game as he's gotten older.
Yeah.
And he'll just get you so many different types of goals. Salah the same. I mean, Salah was fantastic the other day against Man City, and the game was a great advert for the Premiership. The second half, mostly. Yeah. But he was brilliant, and the goals he scores are quality. But I don't know. I just think Ronaldo gets you so many types of goals with his head. He'll probably be on penalty soon after he's just thrown his toys out of the pram. So.
That's a tough conversation.
Outside the box, inside the box. For me, Ronaldo's going to be the top scorer this year, and I wouldn't even mind having a cheeky fiver on it. But,
we'll get you on the Bet and Pick show then, and you can do it. You know, for me, I think it will be. It's going to be between Harry Kane, Salah, Ronaldo, Lukaku. Even though Jamie Vardy's actually the joint top scorer now.
He's absolutely flying, isn't he? 6 in 7.
Imagine being
people forget about him, mate. He's getting on, but
imagine being 54 years old and getting 6. Do you know what I mean? But I think, you know, as a United fan, I want it to be Ronaldo, but I think Salah is just on fire, and I think with Ole, he's going to rotate our squad. And Ronaldo will play a lot and he will get a lot of goals. But Salah will play every game, all game. He's in ridiculous shape. He's on fire. He's playing for a new contract. You know, it's going to be all the big clubs looking at him. I think Salah might get it this year. But I think it'll be Ronaldo after him. And I think it'll be Kane and then Lukaku.
Yeah? You think Kane's going to come good?
I think he'll pick up goals because he's going to want. He wants out. You know what I mean? Like, and he'll get bought anyway. But I think for him, he's still chasing, like, you know, the goals in the Premier League and stuff. Like, he wants to be the top of that, and so he can't get lazy with this. Even though he doesn't want to be there, he needs to keep going. So I think he will find form. But it's important that they have Son and a couple of other players playing, because without them, it'll be tough for him. But I think it'll be Salah, Ronaldo, Kane, Lukaku.